Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Life Between Us. This is a podcast with no rules, no boundaries, and no expectations. It truly just is. These are unscripted conversations with those I have real relationships with. This is not an interview or informational podcast, but really instead a podcast of witness to the living example of healing through relation, 2 by 2. This podcast is a space for us to meet fully in the present and to really just allow the miracles, the love, and the light to shine through. A reminder that we do not wake up alone. We remember the truth together, always 2 by 2, as the light reveals itself in the space between us. Okay, I am like buzzing. So I just got done with a conversation with my dear sister Kassidy, and we don't even talk about how we came to know one another in this lifetime, and maybe that will have to be a different podcast, but we have known each other for some years now, and the way in which we were brought together was so miraculous. Actually, I'm just going to share right now. So Kassidy and I were brought together through the Instagram algorithm is what you would think, but actually spirit. I was divorce coaching at the time and was really getting my Instagram all around helping women after divorce. And I had made a reel that was about one of the darkest times of my life when I was contemplating suicide and actually attempted suicide. And she came across that reel and she went to my page, and like I said, we'll have to share this at a different time, even deeper, so you can get her side. But what she shares is that she found my page and she felt this resonance with me, but she couldn't explain why, because she was like, why am I following this divorced woman? Like this, she was young, like early 20s, and like was she even 20 yet? Yeah, early 20s, I think. And there was just no reason for her to be able to relate at the level form with divorce. And then at that time, I was really big into business and reaching out and prospecting and stuff. And we ended up on a phone call together, and we found a deeper connection with our fathers and the loss of our fathers, and ended up working together. And since, just our journeys have continued to grow together, and we have continued to heal through one another. And we even joke at the end of this call, this conversation, about how our conversations always start out, like, even just if we call each other on the phone, like, these are totally unscripted. It starts out very, like, surface level, like, how are you? What's new with your partner? What's new with your partner? Very, like, small talk, but it's always super awkward. And you'll hear that at the beginning of this. We always kind of start out in this awkward space. And I think it's because we're still working on giving ourselves full permission to, like, dive off the deep end. Because you'll see, once we really get into allowing spirit to flow through, like, our mirrors just polish, and even like our voices get louder and louder, and we just get more passion and more aha, and more of seeing the miracles and the deeper connection. And yeah, we could talk for hours and hours, but this conversation today, the state of the world and in this country, there's a lot of heavy things going on, and Kassidy brings up some of that, and we go deeper into seeing it from different perspectives and how we can continue to live in a place of joy despite what is going on around us, and that it is not something to feel shame or guilt about, or to feel that you must present in a certain manner or experience something in a certain manner because you believe others are. Some of our conversation may prickle you, but just remember, prickling is movement of the spirit, and remembering, and it's really just reflecting the stories that are ready to be released. And so we present this conversation with deep love and deep understanding of where you are, and knowing you're not in this alone, and we're in this all together. Even Kassidy says that I say I'm still loading, and because it's a practice, and hers is like, my screen's buffering sometimes, because we all forget, about truth sometimes, and we have to find our way back to remembrance. But it's having beautiful conversations like this and having those mirrors in our life that we can hop on a call or send a message, and then for truth to really speak through them, for them to hold this space that doesn't allow for the stories to continue to manifest and grow stronger and stronger. But I will say, like the last episode with my dear friend Tommy, it's completely unscripted, and what happens. Kassidy has the computer but no headphones, so there's echoing, so she ends up on her phone as we were recording it. It looked very questionable as the quality. So I have no clue because I have yet to witness what it looks like, but we will still plan to put it up. There should not be any echoing, but if there is, turn your volume up, down, whatever you need to do so that you can receive the message that Spirit has for you in this conversation. Please let us know if you relate to this at all. I'm guessing you do, because we're not in this alone, and you did not find this podcast by happenstance. But we are so grateful that you are tuning in. And yeah, no further ado, here is the conversation with my dear sister Kassidy. So much love. Bye-bye. The first time I think we were in Bon Air. So it's been a minute.
Yes.
Well,
yeah, it's been a hot minute.
So good to see you.
Hello.
So good to see you. And how have you been? How are you feeling today? Yeah.
So I told myself that for today I was just going to show up as I am, come as you are, and whatever was what it is. I just is, and it'll be fine, because this week has actually been the most insane week, probably, I don't want to say of my life, but like in a hot minute. It's been literal insanity, like chaos left and right from every single angle of every single person I care about going through something or another. And so I am absolutely exhausted, but I'm here and I'm good. And I feel like with all of that, it was actually, while it's been chaotic and scary at times, it also has been quite beautiful, because I have felt God in every single inch and second of it. And I have been grounded and peaceful and full of clarity, I feel like, despite all of it. So it's been a dualistic experience, to say the least.
I mean, well, how are you navigating it, first of all? Like, I want to say something. Like, I just love that you're always able to see, the beauty in things and recognize the duality. But I'm guessing when you were in the midst of a lot of it, that wasn't so easy. So how did you navigate it?
Yeah, I mean, that is how I navigated it, was choosing to see the good, choosing to rely on God. I have prayed more this past week or two than I have at any point in my life. The people around me have prayed, I feel like, more than any other point in their life. So it's just been a lot of praying and coming to God and relying on God and resting in Him. For Christmas, my mom got me this necklace, and it's just a little teeny thing that says "Rest in Him," and on the other side it has Matthew 11:28, which is the Bible verse that says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." So it's really been like, we've talked about this before, that there's a difference between knowing something, understanding something, and experiencing something. And this week has been full of experiencing the truths that I already knew already. So,
yeah, like really living it and being in it. And at that Bible verse, like what immediately came to mind is, like, I know you're in a time of experiencing heaviness. But I think, like, one of the big pieces that we so often miss is, like, any time we're believing being in the world, it is the heaviness, right? And, like, that's what that, like, Bible verse is about, is, like, all of you who, have gotten so heavy from what you think, quote unquote, the real world is, like, are you ready now to be like that back against the wall surrender moment and have a different way? And so I feel like a lot of times, like you're talking about, it takes these moments of, like, our quote unquote projected world, what we believe we're, interacting with, to, like, rock us to the point of, like, complete fear to seek that guidance and to seek that, restoration.
Yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. I like how you worded it about like almost like a back against the wall moment that allows you to fully surrender. I feel like what I've experienced this week had portions of what I've experienced this week have been um, feelings I've been seeking for a while and never quite understood, like why things just didn't feel aligned, even though I was knowing and understanding these things. I didn't understand like why I wasn't fully experiencing those things, and I feel like this past week has been that. It's been this moment of letting go and releasing and trusting and going with the flow, and whatever is, and that's okay, and it's fine, and it doesn't need to be anything other than what it is, and just continually praying that not my will be done but God's will be done in me and through me and around me, and that whatever that may be, then that is what it is, and that it's good, and letting go of the perception that I guess the worldly perception of quick labeling of what something is or is not, and allowing it to just be what it is. So,
Which is so much easier said than done.
way easier said than done. Yeah, it's been a lot, but I don't know. It's weird. It's been weird because it's um today I'm really tired and feel very out of it. But outside of today, it's felt very natural. Honestly, this like releasing and letting go and trusting just is what is, and trusting that God is at hand in all of it, because there was no other option. You know what I mean? Like that was the only option to get me and my loved ones through what we were going through. So it actually felt quite natural. I think that's why I actually was able to experience it for the first time, because it wasn't something that was being forced. It just was. So
But do you think, like, I mean, so often we say that, like, that was the only option, but was it really the only option? Or, like, you just surrendered to, like, what felt most easeful?
no, I would say like it was I think this week the choices made were the harder choices actually. I know I say it felt natural for me, but it maybe didn't necessarily feel natural for the people around me. Um, I think there were more easeful choices that were more aligned with the ways of the world, whether that be, you know, coping in a certain manner, um, turning to um, things of this world for the comfort and the peace that maybe we were seeking, and instead we like chose what we knew we needed and wanted, which wasn't what we've been wanting. So that was something else I think that helped with it feeling natural, and the release and surrender was that it I don't know how to word all these things, but like it's without words. But it desire shifted this past week. Once shifted this past week. Focus shifted this past week. I feel like the scripture that just kept coming back to me over and over and over and over and over again was like the example of when Peter's walking out from the boat onto the water, and Jesus doesn't stop the storm. Like the storm keeps rolling around. Like the storm's still chaotic and it's still going on, and that's what this week was. But it was that choice between focusing on the storm and allowing myself or the people around me to sink into the water, or choosing to stay focused on Jesus and knowing that like I don't know what's going on. I don't understand why it's going on. It's absolutely chaotic and this is insane. But like I'm trusting Jesus, and I'm trusting Him to carry me and my loved ones through this, and know that like we will come out of this, and this too shall pass, and everything's okay. It may not feel okay right now, but it will be okay, and I trust in that.
I love that. We were talking the other day in Lighthouse, and I think for like the longest time we thought it was about the eye of the storm, right? And like finding yourself in the eye of the storm, which can kind of feel like that moment, that The Chosen depicts so beautifully, of Jesus, in the storm and Peter or Simon or whatever you want to call him is, walking off the boat and then walking on water and with the storm around him. Hi.
He's going to say hi. Oh, shoot. Just popped the fire out of me.
Hello.
You can join. You just gotta be
Oh.
quiet, okay?
Like, what? Quiet? What's quiet?
Right.
But I feel like Jesus is so calm in that moment because it's kind of like when he gets crucified. He is so calm, not because he's found the eye of the storm, but he's like, witness to the storm doesn't actually exist. It's not even real. It's just like,
Yes.
yeah, it's your imagination. So that's why he can stand there
Yeah.
and be, crucified. That's why he can stand in the storm and help Peter, Simon walk on water, is because he's like, the storm is your belief. The storm is the chaos only exists in your stories that you're telling yourself, in your beliefs that you're holding. Yeah, that's what came to my mind.
The two things that came to my mind too just now when you were talking about that is this, I don't know if it's like a Buddhist belief or where this quote comes from, but it's kind of the quote that like once we pass on, we'll look back on this life and we'll laugh at what we used to once grieve, or the quote of like, this all started when we forgot how to laugh. And I feel
Yes,
like,
of course.
yeah, and I feel like this past week, there's been a lot of moments where like the insanity, not just like in what's going on in my life personally, but like what's going on in the world right now in our country. There's moments where like I just have to laugh, like, and at times it feels wrong and it feels a little crazy, but like I literally cannot help myself but laugh because it's literally so insane. Like it's literally a script out of a movie, and those words being used intentionally. And like when you have that moment, you have that realization, even if it's for like a micro moment, it's like, whoa, like whoa, like what? Like this is
Right.
crazy. And but it kind of allows you to like step outside of the situation, and again, it's kind of like the same thing of like keeping your eyes on Jesus. It's not that the storm stopped, it's realizing that the storm doesn't matter.
Well, it wasn't there.
Yeah.
Like, it can't, yeah, because it's something that was never there, can't stop. And I feel like that's how you can get to that lighthearted, joyful space that you're even talking about amongst the darkness that is, and the quote unquote wrongs that are happening in the world, and particularly this country. And the focus on that is that when you start to see it for what it truly is, which is a puff of nothingness meant to create fear in us, you can laugh. I mean, does that negate the experience that people are having at the level of form and, being ripped out of places and this or that? No, but it reminds us of what to hold on to and what choices we have, I guess, in the midst of it. Like, it was Gandhi, he was in prison and he was like the freest guy ever, but yet he was in prison and he didn't, make this big story about it. Instead, he showed how he could be more free than a person supposedly not behind the prison walls, right? Because he showed that it was the mind. It's the mind that's free or captured. Julie Julie from Lighthouse, she recently brought to awareness this book on money, which of course, sometimes my mind's like, oh my gosh, another personal development book, like that's going to teach us this or that. And I've only read the introduction so far, but these people I've worked with, super wealthy people with their philanthropy, but then they've also gone to like jungles where money's never been anything introduced at all. And I don't even know where I was going with that. I've completely lost my mind. Yeah, I completely lost. But essentially, it's like about the stories. I know that's where I was going.
Yeah.
And the stories we tell ourselves and the belief of the direct impact it has or does not have on our life.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's maybe the point you were gonna make. I don't know. Maybe it'll come when it's needed later. But the the stories, I'm really glad that you made that point with like Gandhi and everything, because that was like the next place I was gonna take it, especially with how powerless and hopeless a lot of people probably are feeling in the situations that they're in right now. I've definitely had the moments, a lot of moments this past week of where I do fall into um, the perceptions of fear and feeling powerless and hopeless and rage and just horror. And I have had my moments where I felt that, but then I just have to keep reminding myself of like my example that I kept thinking of was like Paul. He ended up in prison too, or like he was in that type of situation, and he was also writing like some of the most beautiful stuff in the Bible during that time as well. um I mean, there's so many examples in the Bible of people and just perceivable not good situations living the good life. And I feel like I've just really had to lean in on that, and lean into that remembrance and like put that energy out, this energy of like peace and knowing and just true being with Christ and in alignment with that, because even though it's not happening in my backyard, like it could be tomorrow. And it's obviously been proven that they're not just taking the worst of the worst off the streets, they're attacking everyone. And so it could be me, you know? And I just keep reminding myself that in those moments, it's not what is actually physically happening in front of you, but the way you're perceiving it in the mind. And that's really the only choice and power we really have in this world, is the choice of how we perceive something and the way we choose to look at it and the way we choose to experience it through that perception. And just this like, and it's hard to put into words, but because I feel like for people who may not know this language or have experienced these moments where you can have peace in an unpeaceful moment, it seems kind of crazy. And it's kind of like the same thing where it's like a school shooting happens again and they're like, oh, we'll pray for you. Okay, what is that? What are you going to do though? What are you going to do? Okay, thank you for the prayers, but like, no, thank you. That doesn't really mean anything to me anymore. Like, what are you going to do about it? And I feel like in these moments, I don't know necessarily how to word it, but there's this deep inner peace in knowing that like that really is the only power and choice we have in these situations. And I feel like in a way it takes the power away a little bit. Like there was this one moment I read about recently where there was a pastor sticking up for someone in this type of situation. And there was another, I'm just trying not to like be too political and get into words and everything, but there was another person that was brandishing a gun in their face and was like trying to intimidate them. And he was like, are you afraid? And the pastor like looked him dead in the eye with like this complete calmness and peace and was like, I'm not afraid. And the ICE officer, and the person immediately like grabbed the pastor and like detained him and took him and everything for literally no reason, a U.S. citizen. And I truly think it was because like he literally cannot fathom like how can you literally have a gun in your face and not be afraid. And it's because of the power of God. It's because of the power of Christ. It's because of the power of truth and the Spirit, and like knowing that like we are in this world but not of this world, and that like you literally cannot touch us. Like like a person who believes in God, like I truly believe that like you can't touch them. Like it makes me think of Job, where like Job literally like gets everything taken away from him, and there's this conversation happening between like the devil and God, and God's like, he's mine, like, do what you will, but like don't touch his soul, like he's mine. And I feel like that's the truth that we have to hold on to, is like even though physically we may be getting battered and bruised and perceivably destroyed, we actually can't ever be destroyed. And that's the truth of the matter. And when you sit in that and when you believe in that and when you come from that, like you can't be afraid. Like fear can't touch you because it's not true. Like you can't like another thing that makes me think of all this too is like you can't fight evil with evil. You have to bring the evil to the light, and when you bring the evil to the light, it gets dispelled, because like it can't exist. Truth doesn't stand on it anymore. I don't know, my words, I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, but
yeah. No, I mean, I definitely, I was talking about this the other day. It's like we only experience pain when we don't see the purpose. when we don't believe in a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And so often that statement is flipped and says that there's purpose in the pain. So that pain is good and that there's purpose in it. But the truth is you're only experiencing pain because you believe there is no purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that none of us can't not follow God's plan.
Mm-hmm.
So that means even someone, which this is going to be like, people listening to this may prickle, and prickling helps us to move the stories. And it doesn't mean that we're accepting things at the level of form and saying it's okay, but we're acknowledging that it's a part of a plan that's so much grander than us, our bodies, right? It's the plan that's reminding us of the truth of the oneness of spirit. So when we get into these arguments of who's right, who's wrong, you're bad, I'm good, we're playing at the level of form. And that's the ego's play. That's where judgment is. We're judging the level of form. And that's when we're experiencing tons of pain, because we're either on the right side or the wrong side. And even if we're on the right side, we're witnessing people hurting people on the wrong side who we believe are on the right side. It's like this chaotic mess, because that's where the ego keeps you from this place of knowingness that you're talking about. And the knowingness is not even necessarily about what happens at the level of form, and that the believers of God can't be touched, because I truly believe that, say that person who was like, I'm not afraid, could have just as easily got shot in the face in that moment. And it doesn't mean that, his faith wasn't strong enough, or one or the other. So in my mind, it's not necessarily the faith or the lack of faith that causes an action at the level of form to happen. It's our faith or lack of faith that causes how we experience it internally, what we can feel. And I've had many moments where it appears to be chaos in the body that is Ashley. Like maybe she's like freaking out and upset, but like internally, I don't feel that way. Internally at the observer's chair, I'm really feeling this like calmness, this peace, this warmth, this love, which of course is like, doesn't make sense. But think of when you watch a movie. I mean, yes, sometimes there's movies where you get like fully into and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. And your heart is just breaking and, you become one with it. But there's also movies you can sit there and be like, this is like so messed up. It's stupid and hilarious, right? Like that's what you're talking about. And that's really taking like the observer's stand, and knowing that like, this isn't happening to me. This isn't even happening for me. This is happening like as a movie on the screen that I'm witnessing. And it doesn't mean like at the level form you won't do things. It doesn't mean that you won't, go to a protest right now. It doesn't mean you won't, become an agent of the other side, right? Like it's really seeing that it's all just unfolding exactly as it's meant to. And so, what's so funny, because, well, it's not funny, but the Forgiveness in Jesus book, well, of course you do, Cassie. Like, we love the Forgiveness in Jesus book. But, so my Kindle, I was going to read the other morning, and my Kindle was dead, and I'm like, darn it. And the Forgiveness in Jesus was next to me. I'm like, let's see where we left off in the actual physical book. Because remember, like, we were traveling the world, so we were reading from the Kindle because we didn't have it. And it was chapter 13. And the place was the Moses, where Moses's feet, like, remember the speech impediment, where he says he couldn't share because he had a speech impediment, but really the speech impediment was like the barrier being placed that he could project out on. And so it like goes into how we're constantly like seeking these things to project our fears out on. But in the same aspect, we're seeking things outside of us essentially to worship and to believe that are like better than us, or the right way or the wrong way. And essentially it said, I wonder if I can find it, because I read it to Pat. I was like, oh yeah, right here. So it talks about how who can only be found. Okay. The true God is never found, for we have sought outside ourselves, right? So when we're seeking outside of ourselves, the true God can never be found. So like if we're believing that, an action at the level of form is God or anything like that, or not God, right? The opposite. The one who can only be found within. We have already discussed the special love relationship with the disciples that had with Jesus, and the devastating results. Like the disciples were so upset because of what happened to Jesus, right? Like, is that not happening right now? That there's tons of people so upset with what's happening to their family members, only because they're seeing it through like a special lens. And then it says, in our own day and age, we have seen the great dangers of such a practice, wherein their terror of being alone, so people's terror of being alone, people follow to horrible consequences, the charismatic egos of national leaders or the latest spiritual teacher. And then it says this, Nazi Germany and the more recent disaster in Jonestown, Guana are two modern examples of such a mistake. I feel like that's what we're experiencing right now.
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
Yeah. But it's like, it says, however, this same mistake can more subtly occur when following a truly holy person, where one substitutes an external God for an internal one. So again, it's about believing. It's not about changing what's happening at the form, but it's about your belief in the form, right? Exactly. Your belief in what that person is saying, and that is the word of God, and you must follow their word instead of finding that internal relationship with God. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I went off on a huge tangent.
No, I think you're going somewhere. I also wanted to clarify that, like, when I said people, I also wanted to clarify that when I said, like, people can't be touched, I meant more like what you're saying right now, that, like, yeah, it's more so, like, when you believe you're in your form so much that, like, this is, like, only this, like, what I can physically touch is myself, then of course I'm going to be fearful. Of course I'm going to be scared. Of course I'm going to, fall into the pits of despair and everything, and, like, all of that. But when you choose not to believe in this form, but to believe in who you actually are, which is your spirit, I think that's more so what I meant when I said, like, you literally can't be touched, because, like, that is one with Christ, that's one with God. God can't be touched in that way, and, like, it's invincible, and so, like, what you're saying right now too, with, like, the belief in, like, where your God is. Ooh, that just reminded me of a quote that I read, or that, like, I was reminded of recently, where it's like, you can only serve one master. Like, you can only serve one master, and, like, who's your master? And I feel like when your master is God and is Christ, like, genuinely and wholeheartedly, and you genuinely come, like I've been watching the Chosen again lately too, and when Simon is brought in by Jesus, and, like, all the fish go into his boat and stuff, immediately Simon comes out of the boat and, like, falls to his knees in front of Jesus and is like, whatever you say, whatever you do, like, I will follow you. But he also says, depart from me, like, I'm a sinless man. And he was residing in that belief, that, like, this belief of separatism, that, like, his sin kept him separate from being able to be a follower of Christ and to have Christ as his master. And so I think I think this is, like, an all encompassing thing, where it's like, we are in perceivably very scary times, but when you choose to look for the good amidst the bad, like right now, the way that people are coming together to support each other and to get each other through what's going on right now is actually, like, so beautiful. And, like, there's so much bad and scary stuff happening, and everyone sees that all across their news feeds and stuff. But there's also, like, so much good that's happening, and so much of, like, the truth of who I believe humanity to be. I think right now there's this narrative being pushed that of, like, dehumanizing people and lessening them almost to the point where they're, like, less than animals, which is a whole entire another conversation. But I think in like standing in like our true humanity, like our God created in the image of God humanity, and like the truth of who we are in our core and our spirit, when you focus on that and you look for that, you can see that more clearly, and it's so much more powerful than the darkness ever could be. I think the darkness likes to be loud, and it likes to be terrorizing, and it likes to be in your face, and it likes to traumatize because that's its perceivable power. But when we don't allow it to have that power over us, like it like it's again another step of that like untouchability, where like yes, you will and could be literally shot in the face, but like you yourself, who you actually are, if you identify with who you actually are in your spirit, like you're untouched. Like immediate, the way I perceive it is like um kind of like that veil where it's like we are on this side right now, but like the moment that happens, you're on the other side, and you can see clearly how that situation was actually like absolutely nothing. And I think it's like it is hard and it's not the easy thing, but it is simple in choosing to stand in that and believe in that and see from that perspective. And I think that's like where that pastor was in that moment, was knowing that he was in the world but he wasn't of the world, and that, you know, like you can intimidate me all you want, but like I know my truth, and no matter how hard you try to push your truth onto me, it will never be my truth. You like can't touch that truth. And so I think that's like the power we have right now in humanity, is like standing on that and believing in that and not letting go of that. And I think that's like where our hope and joy and peace and love can be found, is in that truth of spirit and who we actually are, and as one humanity, not as individuals or separate beings fighting against each
Which
other.
it's really hard to see that oneness right now, because if like because it's like you can't pick and choose, you know what I mean? Like we can't pick and choose that the group of us coming together to support one another are one, but then the person that's treating the other being unhumane is not part of the one.
Yes.
Right? And so that's the catchy part, because we think that's how it happens, but it talks about in the Bible, it talks about in A Course in Miracles, that you cannot seek pleasure and not find pain, because it's the same coin. So if you're going to search for the quarter, you might find it on its head, but if you want the quarter, you will also get its tails. Yeah. Right? You can't have just the head side. So it's really just, again, the internal space of like, no matter where you are in the external, it's really about that internal relationship, not the external relationship at the level of form. And I think that's so challenging, because it's so much easier. Even Patrick, like when I was talking about having this podcast, now I'm like, oh wow, yeah, this is interesting. So having this podcast and it just being, you know, conversations where like literally this, we just started chatting, and you know, but it's with individuals that we can sit down and have not like have these ulterior motives or, you know, needing to impress or whatever. So yeah, just where we can have free spirit, open conversations. And, you know, there's different discussions about how, you know, it could be a relationship that didn't start that way. And through our, you know, time together and releasing of the stories, we were able to come to this space, which it's always that, right? Like whether it's our individual stories. But Patrick's like, you should have your ex-husband on. And I was like, absolutely not. That would not be a good conversation. I don't think he's in a place, right? And so I projected it out on him that like I don't think he's in a place, but really like he's just a mirror of me. So like it's not even about ever having him on the show. It's about how I responded in that moment and how I saw it, because that has to do with where my internal healing fully is still in this moment. So that just like sparked that in my head. I was like, oh yeah, same.
Yes, no, exactly. No, exactly. As soon as you said that, I was like, oh, yep. No, I think that's a good one. Yeah, I like how you mentioned that, like, because I haven't actually thought about that in a long time, that like I haven't had that perspective in a long time, that people really are just reflecting back to you what's in you as well, which can be very scary at times to understand that fully. But I do believe in that, and I like that you just mentioned, like, if you believe in the rights and the goodness of one side, you have to believe in the rights and the goodness of the other side, even if it's not being perceivably good at the time. And I actually wrote something recently that I shared on Facebook because I just kept feeling like I wanted to say stuff. I keep wanting to comment on people's stuff, but I keep keeping my mouth shut because I'm like, I know that's not what's best, and I know I'm coming from a place of like emotion and reactivity versus like responding and presence. And I just wrote this thing where I was like kind of, like talking to God and just asking him to remind us all, like really like renew our minds, transform our minds. And when I wrote it from every side. I said, whether you are someone who is honoring someone's life, or whether you are celebrating that their life was taken, whether you are the person being taken out of their homes, or the person taking the people out of their homes, like whichever side you were on, like I truly believe that none of us at the core of our beings can ever be separate from God or not a child of God. And it's scary because there is a big group of people right now using the name of Christ for an agenda that doesn't seem very Christ-like, which can be very scary. But the truth of the matter is like, to a certain degree, when they call themselves sons of God, they're not wrong. They are. Are they living from a place of God? I want to answer that, but then my brain's like, no, that's literally the point of your conversation you're having right now, is to not judge. You don't know. But that's hard. It is. It's very, 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 very hard. But if you believe in the humanity and the goodness of one side, you have to believe in the goodness and the love and the child of God and all of us, like literally all of us. And I remember having this understanding from a very young child, where I didn't understand how even someone as extreme as Hitler, and this is not something I would share very often because it's not easily accepted, but from a very young age, I had this issue where I was like, I know that Hitler was the face in the hands of some very, very horrific things that happened in humanity. And there are people in places now who are the face of some very horrific things that are perceivably happening. However, I don't think, no matter how loud the darkness gets, that the darkness never overcomes. Like, I truly believe in that and have to stand by that truth, that like no matter how much evil is coming from a person, that like as a child of God, God would never allow them to fully be overcome by that. And there is always that seed of goodness within them, and there's always the seed of spirit within them. And with that, I believe that like we truly are, at the end of the day, all home in heaven. And that's the truth. And if I believe in that and I stand by that, I have to view things from that place too, which is so hard in a black and white world. But like you said with the coin, if I want to pick up the coin and I want to believe that we are all children of God, then I have to pick up the whole coin. I have to. There is no other choice. I have to view everyone as a child of God.
Right. Or you drop it, right? Because
Yeah.
I guess more what I was saying is like one side of the coin is that like some people are Christ-like and some people are not. And so again, it's us. For me, what I've come to is it's me being arrogant to God and believing that because like Hitler, if we think back to Hitler, there was plenty of people that believed what was happening was like for the good of all.
Yes.
Like literally. And there's plenty of people today that
Yes.
truly believe that with all
Genuinely.
of their heart. Genuinely. But just because we are on the other side of the coin at the level of form doesn't mean one is right and one is wrong. It's just maybe there's more of a majority today that believe that one side is right versus one is wrong. And that's the trick of it, is like when we start to get in the right or wrong, bad or good, is when we get back into the Eagles playing games, because that's judgment, right? You can't say something's even good unless you're judging it against what you believe to be bad. Like you're judging. Instead, like when you're able to see the Christ light in all, despite what appears to be at the level of form, is when you can truly experience the joy,
Yeah.
the deep joy that is, because it's not about accepting what's happening at the level form. Just like full circle back to the Jesus in the storm.
Mm-hmm.
He's not just like accepting the storm. He doesn't see the storm because the storm only exists in the stories that are being projected on the screen. And like when you are talking about like, seemingly people using a name for what is not good, I think that's what this section that I was just reading from, Forgiveness in Jesus was trying to highlight, was that like what started out as seemingly good turned to what was seemingly bad.
Mm-hmm.
And those people, even though they were in their right heart saying this is for, because he references spiritual leaders, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of those spiritual leaders today. I mean, like even back in the day, there was like the Kool-Aid drinking people that drank the Kool-Aid and all, took their lives together. But it was good until it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It was good until all of a sudden it crossed the line, which means a coin was picked up and it was judged from the beginning as good, because anytime we start to judge anything either way, the coin will flip, because that's how the ego keeps you distracted. Because the second you figure out like this, like a coin, I love this coin, and Pat and I, so random, we opened an Etsy store, Cassie. Did I tell you this? I sent it to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Like so random. This is just like how spirit guides you to like some of the most randomest crap ever. And so it's like this fun thing, and we polish silver, and it's just fun. It's just a thing we do. But I think of the coin. So you get a new coin and it's dirty, and you really like the heads. Let's say you think the heads is the good side, and you shine it and you shine it and you shine it, and it's so shiny and beautiful. But after a while, it gets boring. Like that same, like I've been looking at some of the same bowls that we shine, and I'm like, all right, time for new. You know what I mean? Like your time for new. Well, then that's when the coin gets flipped.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get the tail side. And at first you're like, oh, well, this isn't, let's shine this. Let's shine this. And so it's like, it was the same coin, just a different side, and you got bored with one side, and so then you gave credit to a different side until it becomes uncomfortable again, right? Which boredom is actually a very high form of discomfort for us, and I think it keeps us from really getting into a state of listening, because boredom is when we're not distracting ourselves. I mean, Pat, like with our travels, I think I've said this, Cassie, but we had many Patreon calls during our travels, and I had many breakdowns during our travels. Mm-hmm. And I remember I would say to Pat, like, why did we do this? And he's like, because you were bored. And I was like, I was not bored. Like, I was far from bored. But, yeah, I mean, the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
How many people love the Joker? He had a really, really hard part to play, right? Or like Harley Quinn, or, think of any of the quote unquote bad guys in the superheroes. Like you have just as many fans of the bad guys, maybe more. Sometimes the villains are actually more liked than the victors, or whatever that you call the opposite side. But the only reason why we feel comfortable with loving a villain from a movie or a comic book is because they're not quote unquote a part of the real world. But what if the Joker showed up today for real and started like killing people left and right and stuff, and then Batman's coming in as the vigilante, saving the world? Like, isn't this kind of the same?
Yeah, the way I feel about it nowadays is I feel like everything is a flip coin. Like the way I heard just now when you were talking about that, I'm like, if the Joker came into the world nowadays, I think he'd be celebrated, and when Batman tried to fight him, I think that Batman would be perceived as the villain. I feel like that's how it would be in the world right now, with just how things are going.
Probably.
It's just, that's the energy it gives me. But the thing is like, it's so crazy because it can easily be flipped onto the other side. And so as long as you're playing this game of like good and bad, you can't ever get to the core of what's happening. And when you were talking about all this, you kept reminding me of this post that I saw recently that really called me out as well, where this person that I not necessarily grew up with, but went to the same school as me, she posted recently about how heartbroken she is over the state of the world right now and how she's so ready for Christ to come back, which I truly believe that Christ is a state of mind that is coming back into all of us. And I think that's like where the power lies. I think that's where our conversation was kind of going earlier. But she stated, she was like, you know, and I'm gonna use names, but she was like, you know, when Charlie Kirk passed away, you know, one side was like, you know, he was a great man, we need to honor his life, you know, he needs to be put on every platform, da da da, while the other side was like, he's scum, he was a Nazi, he was you know, a bigot, he was blah 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 blah, and they kind of like defiled or dehumanized his life a little bit, as if it wasn't, his life still wasn't worth something. You know, a life was lost, and when a life is lost, period, no matter who it is or who they were before they passed, it matters. And then she was like, and then they go on to, you know, Renee Good, where, you know, one side saying, you know, we need to honor her life, we need to fight for her life, you know, her life needs to be put on every platform. And then the other side's like, she's a terrorist, she was a lesbian, she was a mother, she should have been at home, she shouldn't have been there, like da 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 da. And she was like, as long as you're playing these games, she said, you miss the whole point. And the whole point is that a life matters, that humanity matters. And when you play this game of which side are you on, you miss the truth. And there was also a quote I read recently of a Native American where he was like, the right wing and the left wing are the same wings of the same bird. He was like, as long as you're playing the game.
I love that.
Yes, yes. And I was like, bruh, because like sometimes I can get a little bit into like, because where a lot of my values do kind of rest perceivably more on one side, I do get a little lost sometimes, and I have to realize, like, the thing is, though, is, like, I don't agree with the other side fully either. Like, I don't agree with either side. I agree with, like, the truth of the matter, and the truth of the matter is I think that lives are worth living, that lives are worth protecting, no matter what life it is, that they should be handled with care and intention and honor and respect, and that we deserve basic human rights, all humans, no matter where you're at. I don't freaking care what you look like or who you are. Like, I think we all deserve basic freaking rights, that we're all humans and we're all worthy and we all have value, and I believe in that. And when you lose sight of that and you start playing this game, like that's where like the fear creeps in and the hatred creeps in and all these different things creep in. But when you, again, it almost feels like it's going back to like focusing on Christ. It kind of feels like that a little bit. It's like, you know, you have one side on the side of the storm, you have the other side on the one side of the storm, and they're both yelling at you, trying to get your attention, being like, this is right, this is wrong, this is right, this is wrong, fight our side, da 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 da. Give yourself to our side. That's what I just heard for a second. Give yourself to our side. And instead, we have to remind ourselves, like, we are giving ourselves to Christ. And when you give yourself to Christ, you allow yourself to actually see through all of the bullshit, for lack of a better way of wording it. And you stop playing the games of this world that the world wants you to play, that they've been playing for eons. I mean, this isn't anything new. These games of right and wrong and good and evil, they've been going on since the beginning of the millennium. So like, I feel like
not even millennium, that's how it started, right? Like we go back to like you know, Adam and Eve, like that's how it started, right?
Right,
the tree
literally.
of knowledge, the tree of judgment, the tree that allowed good and evil to exist, and
Right.
that, you know, is the view, and saw the differences. That's the only reason why all of a sudden they needed clothing, is because they realized, like, oh, you're a boy, I'm a girl. Isn't that the same as all of a sudden a realization of like, oh, you're bad, I'm good?
Yes.
Same. Like
Yes,
same, but different.
Yes, you also
But-
made me think of like the stories we tell ourselves. Real quick point, because right after
Yeah.
that happens and they get deceived and they eat the apple, the first words when God like finds them in the garden again and they are like telling him that they're hiding because they're naked, his first thing he says to them is, "Who told you you were naked?" And I feel like that's really important too. Is like, who told you the story? Who told you the story that you're believing in? You know, where did this story come from? Where's the source of the story? And I think that's like,
it's always the ego, because
Yeah.
it's a story. If it's not, and I think that's where like it comes down to, and this is like a very unfavorable place, because it's so it's hard to see, because it's like, oh my gosh, you don't care, you don't this, you don't that. But really, it's this place of the bird doesn't even exist. Like,
Yes.
it's not about accepting both sides of the coin. It's not about accepting the eye of the storm and the chaos of the storm. And I was talking to someone the other day. I finally just had this epiphany of, you know, like the justice scale. We're always like, what is there you go. It's the
All right.
justice scale. It's like, we're always like, let's find balance, right? Yin and yang. Okay, we need enough yin, enough yang, and balance. Masculine, feminine, balance. But like, that's a game that's constant. Like I said to Evelina on our podcast, it's like the chip and salsa conundrum. Like, you know that, like, every time you get chips and salsa, you always have too many chips or too much salsa. And then you go and try to rectify the situation. And ultimately, you have to eat extra chips without salsa, or you have to eat one chip with a ton of salsa. Like, it's never perfect. And that is what's happening when we're living in this justice scale and trying to make everything balanced, when in fact it's in the middle. Doesn't mean equal on both sides. Middle means there is no sides. Middle means like it just gone. There is no yin, there is no yang, there is no masculine, there is no feminine, there is no good, there is no bad. There is only purpose. And that's what I mean. Like, you don't see the pain. You don't experience pain when you see the purpose. You don't actually experience like dopamine hits when you're just in the joy, right? You can be like, that's the state all the time when you realize like everything is a purpose. This is a movie that God has written and has already been casted, and the roles have already got their scripts, and you can't change it. You can't keep banging on the screen and trying to change it. Can you allow the body that is Ashley to like finish the script that was already written? Yes. And you can watch it from a place of love and purpose, instead of believing that, oh my gosh, Ash, like even right now, like every now and then my mind goes to like, oh my God, my lighting's off because my shirt is blue. Like, that is the ego trying to distract me with bullshit. Or like Tommy showing up with no, camera. Like, that was only because I had a story that it should look a certain way. You showing up without headphones, like, what person in your generation does not have headphones, right? And then so now you're on your phone, so the quality is different. Like, these are all just distractions that it was always going to happen this way, period. And so I can either accept the role that I appeared to have the closest seat to, right? Like, if you think of in a movie theater, and like now you can reserve seats ahead of time, like Cassie, we couldn't do that our whole life, Cassidy. Like, that is something new in this day and age, where you can be like, oh, I reserved that seat, move out of there. Before, it was like, if you don't show up to the movie on time, you're gonna get jacked up seats, right? And you probably should get there 20 minutes early. But it's like, I have a reserved seat in this movie. And instead of it being 33B, because I like 33, it's called Ashley Abramson. And that's the seat. But sometimes I like go off to the bathroom and try to come up with an idea of what should be happening in the script when I'm in the bathroom. And then when I come back to the movie, I'm like, what the fuck? This isn't what I came up with in the bathroom. Let's like go back. And that the bathroom I'm using as an analogy of like going into the brain, when we're up in the,
yes.
Yeah. I mean, the real mind is like what's operating all this, but like the brain, up into the brain of where I'm like, how can I alter this situation, or how can I plan for this upcoming situation? That's what I do in the bathroom. But when I come back and I'm like fully just focused on the movie and just allowing it to unfold, I always talk about like, am I eating my popcorn with Jesus? Or am I like up there banging on the freaking screen like, I just made a new script in the bathroom. Everybody regroup. This fucking sucks. Let's start a different one. Like,
trying to be the director. Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh. And producer and cast.
Yes.
Like, I'm trying to do all of it.
Yes. You go from being the observer of the movie to, trying to literally be the whole cast and the director.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So, and I think, go ahead.
Well, I just want to say, like, anybody listening in, this isn't like shaming people for being upset of the state of the world. It's about understanding, do you attach to that and make that your identity and like try all these ways? Like, do you allow it to like take you over versus like acknowledging what's going on and like seeing the purpose in it? And
Do you
not that
go?
there's purpose in pain, but that you don't want the pain anymore. David said something the other day, and now I think I get it in a different aspect because it kind of irritated me. And he was talking about, someone asked him, like, would you ever go to the Olympics? And he's like, well, if the Olympics no longer had any sort of competition, but people were just like coming together in unity and they called it the Olympics, then I would maybe go. And so for a moment, which I still am like, okay, David, what if you felt inspired to go? Because that's what it's about, right? Following the script of inspiration. But I think really what he was getting at is like, he would never seek out the Olympics for the purpose of the competition,
Yes.
of the winner and loser, the need to go because he's watching this great competition. But I'm sure if like someone was like, hey, you want to come to the Olympics, and he prayed on it and he felt guided to, he would go, and most likely it would be because, because there would be some sort of interaction. His body was needed there in that moment, which we don't have control over. But that's what I'm feeling like in this, right? So, like, even if you know all these things, right, consciously, but tomorrow find yourself in a rally on one side or the other, this isn't about creating a shame or guilt and then being like, oh my gosh, I listened to Ashley and Kassidy, and like, I know that to be truth. What am I doing at a rally on the wrong side? I'm a bad person, blah, blah, blah. It's not about that either. It's about just allowing yourself to be guided and to know that your seat and the movie are already scripted out, and you can just sit down and you can just still view the movie with love, and even do interactions that seemingly appear at the level of form as bad from a place of love. Like, that was another thing, that section, I'll just quick share that section about Moses and stuff. It talked about, who's the guy that got swallowed by the whale?
Jonah.
Yeah, how Jonah got swallowed by the whale, which was literally putting him into darkness from seeing like the light. But then when he got spit up on the beach or whatever happened, you know the story better, he then like helped all of these people of this town like essentially find God, right? But he was pissed. He still didn't find God. He was like, F this, F that. And so essentially like what this book was saying is like, it's never going to change at the level of form, even if you're coming from a place of love or fear. And so he was still coming from fear, but he seemingly at the level of form acted out exactly what spirit needed him to do for the awakening. He could have awoken in that moment, but he still chose the fear. But the form still happened no matter if he would have been awoken from, like, his piece of the movie won't be re-scripted based on how he sees it. So like, let's say someone right now is dehumanizing someone. They could be witnessing it from a place of love, but that won't change their script of them dehumanizing someone, because it was necessary part of the script. Maybe because Kassidy needs to see them dehumanize someone for her own remembrance, for her own awakening, right? Like, so it's, I don't know. I'm going off on a long tangent.
No, I like where you're going. I like where you're going, because you were kind of like, because the points that I was wanting to make, I feel like kind of go a little bit in hand with that, which is like, are you allowing the script to control you? Like, are you allowing the script to control you and your actions, or are you coming from a place of love and inspiration? Which one's which? And another thing that I thought of too when you were talking about the coin doesn't even exist, or like the bird doesn't even exist, is like, so back in the day when people wanted to come to speak to God, they had to go to a temple, and they had to go, there was this place called the Holy of Holies, but there was like a veil or like a curtain in front of it, and only like the highest of high priests could go in there. So another form of separation, another form of coin, this or that, them and us, da 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 da, right? Well, after Jesus got crucified on the cross, that curtain literally got ripped in half, like not figuratively, but like literally. And I feel like in that moment, that was God, like, and Christ, like, being like, the coin doesn't exist, like, let's rip this apart. There is no separation. You silly gooses, there is no separation. Okay, like, it's gone. And so I feel like that's kind of part of, like, I feel like a little bit of what you were talking about just now is like, Jonah still fulfilled his part of the script, and people in their own ways are fulfilling their parts of the script. But the thing is it's like, as perceivers and observers of this, are we allowing it to then control us and to lead us into places of fear and hatred or whatever? Or are we allowing ourselves, maybe not, like you said, the form may not change, okay? Like, I may still get shot in the face. I may still dehumanize a human, though I hope to God I wouldn't. But again, I'm still working on this, okay? This is a work in progress for me.
We're still here. Yeah, we're
Yes.
still loading. Like, where's the loading symbol? Loading.
Yes.
That's why it's called a practice.
Yes, I have moments of clarity, and then my screen starts buffering. So that's where I'm at right now. But it's like that. It's like, do you choose to believe in the script? Do you choose to allow the script to control you, or do you believe in the truth that you know and allow yourself to be controlled from that place? And that's where inspiration comes from. That's where guidance from the Holy Spirit comes from. And so I think like that's kind of like where we're at. It's not like us or them or this side of the coin or that side of the coin, good or bad, good or evil. It's like, are we being controlled, allowing ourselves to be controlled and filled with fear, or are we allowing ourselves to be guided and be inspired from a place of love?
Yeah. Well, and Gandhi showed us nothing outside of you can control you. So if you feel like you're being controlled, it's only because of your own beliefs within.
Exactly.
And so at any given moment, that can be given out. But what comes to mind, and I'm going to do a whole podcast on this once. This is the first time I've mentioned it, is the dog bite. When Patrick got bit by the dog.
Yes, yeah.
Remember? And it was the most beautiful, magical, miraculous day ever. From the dog bite to everything. It like happened in slow motion. It was really this moment of witness that, oh my gosh, things are only your stories. Because also prior to that, I had great fear of going to where the dog bite happened, and we almost didn't go because I knew something bad was going to, like, I had just all of this fear, but I couldn't quite understand it. But then what I had feared came to fruition through the most beautiful miracle. Like, it didn't feel fearful at all in the moment. There was no anxiety. Instead, we were given like this limitless energy and love, and so many connections and miracles came afterwards. But then the interesting piece is then we come to this space where the animals are just like so loving. There's no quote unquote fear according to stories, but the love is like to the point, when you love something so much and you just want to squeeze it, or that feeling of just like,
absolutely.
Oh my God, I love it. Because it's like it's because the ego's trying to place a narrative on it, and it's really like the well of truth within. But I had this dog that all of a sudden there was so much love between us. It was like engulfing me, and like I got, all of a sudden fear came. I'm like, I'm gonna get bit by this dog, and I'm not gonna get bit because it's scared or bad, but because we just have so much love right now. And it was like, oh my gosh, it's same, right? So it's always just the stories that we're placing behind it, and it's gonna happen exactly as it's meant to, period. Like, I didn't end up getting bitten, but it showed me like it doesn't matter. Like, if I'm witnessing this dog from a place of fear because it's big and it's on me, or from a place of love and it's big and it's on me, and then it bites me, I could experience it in either way, because we experienced that with Patrick's dog bite. So it's just like so mind bending when you start to get to have those experiences that you're talking about, of like, am I just seeing the purpose in the script and flowing with it, right? Going with the river, allowing the flow to just unfold as it meant, and like trusting that I'm a child of God, right? Being lost. Like, I joke, me and Scott were talking one day, and I was like, she was talking about feeling lost or something and how that feels shameful. And then I was like, wait, you can't be shepherded if you have the map. Like, no one can guide you if you believe you already know the way. So like, we joke, like, there's a whole merch store I want to start, but one that says I'm lost. And I love it. And then like on the back it says, but don't worry, I have a shepherd. His name is Jesus. Amen. Because the only, the one that leaves the 99 only left because he didn't think he was lost. It's not that he became lost. it's because he thought he knew the way. That's why he strayed away.
Yes, yes. You make me think of the wayward son story where it's this son who like thinks that he can do better without his father, and so he leaves his father's side and you know pass on towards the end of the story, and he realizes like I'm eating worse than my father's servants are, and I'm not actually doing better separate from my father, and so he goes back towards his father, and he thought that like he would be shamed and everything, but his father literally saw him coming from like miles away and started running towards him with like love and acceptance, and like I feel like that's the perfect example of like our relationship with God in Christ is like the only thing he wants is for us to come home. Like that's it. He doesn't want us to be good. He doesn't want us to be right. He doesn't want us to be this, that, or that. He just wants us to be close. He just wants us to come home. He just wants us to be near. And I think a lot of times people think they need to be transformed and then come to Christ, but where transformation actually comes from is by being with Christ. It doesn't happen before Christ. It happens with Christ. Yes.
Like Mary. Yes. Oh my gosh, if people want to believe this, like go Google the scene from The Chosen when Jesus calls her Mary, when he says your name is Mary. Like that is a moment where she is like transformation occurs, not because she first transformed and then found him, right? Instead, like she accepted him. Like you see that whole scene. It's like he was standing there in the kind of dark or whatever, and she noticed him, and they like interacted, and he called her by a different name, and that was her transformation. And the other pieces too that I love about Mary's story, at least in The Chosen, like I don't know the Bible as well as you do. Actually, I've learned a lot about the Bible from you. But at least how The Chosen depicts it, just because one time you have accepted the transformation of Christ doesn't mean you won't go back. And Mary does. She like goes back out, you know, and then she feels so much shame, and he won't even like talk about it. It's like the storm again. It's like it didn't happen. He sees that she's in this place of fear and stuff. He doesn't say, well, what happened, Mary? How do we make sure this doesn't happen again? Like, okay, maybe you need a friend when you go to town so you don't go back to the bar. You know, like it's none of that bullshit. He's just like, come here. Love ya. All right. Welcome back. You're lost. You know, you thought you knew the way, but really you're lost. And so, yeah, I don't know. We need shirts that say lost.
No, I actually like I think that's a beautiful reminder. I think that I always feel like, you know, Christ talks about how he came to bring the upside down kingdom, and I feel like that's a part of it is like, you know, we always want to find ourselves in things, right? We always want to find ourselves in these identities and these labels and these places and people and things. And the truth of the matter is like the reason why we want to be found is because we are already found by Christ. We just have to remember that. And so like, you know, this lost journey is only, I don't know. I think, I don't know exactly what I'm feeling. I'm starting to get to that place, Ashley, that happens sometimes where like, I just feel such a peace and contentness that like, I don't really have words anymore to talk about or to say.
Yeah. I mean, because it's like beyond words. Words were, you know, are symbols twice removed from truth. And so, yeah, we talk ourselves into the remembrance of how simple it actually is, you know, because it's like the stories that make it complicated. And that's really what's going on in the world today. I think there's no coincidence that the mind continues to choose the same area of our country to have the mass things happening. And it happens to be the state that like I grew up in, which I'm like, oh, of course, you know, like
I've been waiting to talk to you about that.
Yeah. Same, you know, very similar. But I mean, I've had to find myself too, like in interacting with individuals that are still in the midst of it, of not coming in from a place of the opposite side of the coin. You know, because we can get that way too, like we're, oh, well, I've got Jesus and I'm gonna, you know, get through everything. And even, you know, in this book, wasn't it where Ken like cautions that? Remember Ken talks about somewhere, maybe it was Art and Impersa, when Gary's like, what if someone's breaking into my house or whatever? And anybody, if you're listening, and it's Gary Renard's Disappearance of the Universe book, and Art and Impersa are some friends he has that he has conversations with. But remember, they're like, well, you still have to like you're still living in this illusion or appear to be. So it's not about just like, because that's just the opposite side of the coin. It's almost like using it like a self-righteous way. So for me, it's like, you know, always finding my way back to that. And you can feel it when you're trying to be like, what is it, more holy than others. Like you can feel it's coming from a place of arrogance versus a place of love. Yeah, that's been interesting to navigate. And, you know, I just think of like how, as my mind has continued to unwind, how those things appear less and less in it, despite supposedly it being everywhere. Like you even just said, in like your news feed, everybody's seeing it, and I'm like, I haven't really saw much. Like I only know the update because I called my family member the other day, you know, and then I said to Pat, like, oh my gosh, guess what's going on, you know. And so it's interesting how that's less and less in your awareness. But it always reminds me, remember, like David says, if someone comes up to him and is like, hey, or even someone, me, like if I was in a good space personally a week ago and someone's like, hey, how's Kassidy? I'd be like, oh, she's great. And they'd be like, when did you talk to her last? I don't know. And they'd be like, well, how do you know she's great? Because my mind's great. And she's, you know, a part of the mind, right? Yeah. And so we only see that people aren't doing well when we ourselves are not doing well. We only have this belief that they must be struggling when it's our own internal struggle. Like it's, you know, pay attention to what you're sharing with others. Pay attention to how you're viewing others, because it's really like what's the internal dialogue, and which is really radically hard in instances like this.
It is. It's very hard. And something that did make me because like you were talking about how like you can still be protesting, you can still be doing in the world, but it may look the same, but it's experienced mentally differently and it's felt differently. And something that made me think of that was like there's a scene where where Jesus comes into the temple and he finds people like selling sheep and cows, and they're sharing coins and all this stuff, and he like drives them out, and like he gets a little angry, and he rights the perceived wrong that he's seeing. And I think that
Okay, well, keep going, but I have something about that. Okay, keep going.
Actually, you go ahead. No, you go ahead, because you might have... Go ahead, you go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, because David talks about that, and in the scene of The Chosen, like, they depict him as what we would believe is angry, right? And it's all based on our stories, because someone only appears angry based on what you believe anger looks like.
Yes.
And because David goes, well, if I was like had this whipping around and I was, you know, doing the things he was, I'd be really excited too. Like I'd be flipping some tables, I'd be dancing around, and like, what if we viewed it in that manner? What if The Chosen would have depicted it more in the universal? Like, what if you would have been doing Zumba and like flipping tables over? It would have been more like a house party versus this fearful place that it was received as only because of people's lenses. So even that, it's like, do you see the purpose? Do you see purpose? If you see purpose, there's no story tied to it of pain or this or that. It's just all joy.
Yes.
Right? Like because that's where David went when he said, he was like, Jesus was in joy. Like sometimes the joy gets out of control. Yeah. And you're just like, gotta dance it out.
Yeah. What I'm hearing is like passion. It's like passion. It's not necessarily anger or something. It's just, you know, a passion coming from the place of truth. And I also want to, because something you said earlier, I just feel like I don't know if it'll help other people, but it was something that really helped me that I learned at a young age, and I often forget, is the difference between happiness and joy. And joy is something that we can rest in every moment. Joy is ever being given to us by Christ and by God, and we can always rest in joy. We can always be joyful. But happiness is dependent on our circumstances. Happiness is dependent on those dopamine moments. Happiness comes and goes, but joy is everlasting. And so I think that's also important to remember too.
I love it. Well, because that would mean that you could be experiencing some of this upheaval as joy. And the ego automatically has stories of shame and guilt. Like, well, I can't, like, if my neighbor is being ripped out of their home and torn away from their family, I can't be in joy. That is rude. That is inhumane and everything else. But like, that is the gift, like you just said, that is ever given from God in Christ. That is like your internal state of, that is like your blood.
Yes.
That runs within. Like, and if all of a sudden your neighbor, bleeds out, does that mean you need to bleed out yourself?
And I feel like, too, when we come from a place of joy, you give the gift of allowing someone else to be able to sit in that joy as well. And I think that, like, when you see everybody as a child of God, you give them permission to see themselves as a child of God. And I think that's where, like, true transformation happens. When you see someone perceivably doing evil actions and you see them as evil, you confirm to them that they are what they think they are and what they are. But when you see them as a child of God, it gives them a moment to actually wake up and break out of this, and like, again, I'm talking a little bit more about the coin again, about like, this is good and this is bad. But like, I think when you see someone as a child of God, no matter where they're at on the scope of their behaviors, you allow them a place to wake up and allow them a place to just be, and allow them a place to be in joy and to be in love and to be in peace, regardless of what is going on. And I think, imagine instead of having a person in front of you who is the perceivably bad person, and you're cursing at them and you're yelling at them and you're throwing stuff at them and you're giving them what they're giving out, you're just like, it just continues the cycle. But imagine the profound breakthrough that they would happen, where they would be like, wait, why is this person treating me like this? Why is this person Jesus would wash an ICE agent's feet. And that's the most radical thing that you can do. You know what I mean? It's like loving every single person right where they are, seeing them for who they truly are as a child of God. And I think that's where like the true transformation actually happens, and where the biggest gift you can actually give to humanity is.
Yeah. But the piece, and that is, yes, so beautiful, because it is about seeing the light in all. And when you see the light in others, like, the darkness can only exist when there's an observer to it, right? Like, if we go into personal development and stuff, there's that cat thing about the cat in the box. Is it dead or alive?
Yes.
It's neither and both until someone observes it. The same thing, right? Like, if you, I mean, there's been many times you and I have known each other for lifetimes for sure, but in this lifetime for many years. And there's been many times where you were dealing with ailments of the body, and we would get on a call, and the purpose of that call was, Spirit to work through us to help remind us both. And so I, as the mirror, would only mirror back your truth, which was you weren't sick, you were healthy, you were all these things. And I remember there was times that mirroring would cause you to cancel our calls because it would be too hard to have that. But then also there was other times where that mirroring would, by the end of the call, you'd be like, I don't really even feel sick anymore, right? Because like, the story wasn't fed in those moments. But I think the key piece here is too, where people can, and maybe that's how the Bible got like law and stuff and decided it has to be a certain way. So like, though we believe there's a potential that Jesus would wash an ICE agent's feet, he wouldn't do it as a display at the level of form. It would be coming from this natural guidance from God within. So I think, so often, that's why there's like, people are like, oh my God, did you hear about that controversy in that church? They're not very godly and blah, because a lot of times we attempt to manipulate the level of form, believing that will change what's going on within. That stupid statement, fake it till you make it? I used to say that. I used to believe that, but that's trash, actually. It's trash. Like, fake it till you make it. It comes from within, and it has nothing to do with the external. So if Jesus were to do that, it all that mattered was what came from within. So that means he could actually go up to an ICE agent and spit at them, but be coming from a place of love within, right? And I know that's like radical, and it could be perceived completely different. That's why our conversation a minute ago about, Jesus flipping tables one, it could be perceived from a place of fear if that's where you were and your purple hair reflection was fear and that you were in trouble. Like, so the people that still feared the love of God, that's how they saw it, because really what was happening was the love of God was flowing fast, was really like in this moment of deep passion, like you said, right? He had so much passion for the love of God, and his disciples felt that, but they also were like, this is odd, the character is off, this doesn't make sense. Only because they could actually still feel the passion because they knew him. Quote unquote, they knew him. But those that were still in this pink purple hair and didn't have a different vision saw the passion as is being yelled at, as being, reprimanded. And there's been moments, I'm sure, like you with Mitchell and stuff, whether your brother or boyfriend, I know with Pat and I, like, there's moments where I'll say something either jokingly or because I'm excited, and he'll take it like an attack immediately, and I'll be like, whoa, no, this was a joke. But he only took it from an attack because he already felt some sort of shame or guilt about what I was saying, right? And so he witnessed it in the state he was in, but because I was in such a different state, I noticed it. But how many times do we say something that maybe we could take or leave, but we say it, and the other person, it reiterates their story, and it starts a battle. Only because we both were met in this place of fear and stories, and then it becomes like toxic.
No, that's happened definitely for sure a lot of times in my life, where you're coming from one energy, but that energy is not where they're at, and so it's being perceived differently, or vice versa. They say something and you take it as, offense or whatever, because you're in that place, but that's not where they were coming from.
Right. Well, and like you said, you were talking about earlier something, and I can't remember now, but I remember, but what it sparked inside was like the Last Supper, because you said you're rewatching The Chosen. Did you watch that one yet, the season?
Yeah, we finished everything.
Okay. Yeah, so like the Last Supper, like really what The Chosen did such a good job is Jesus is really attempting to prepare his they're called disciples, right? Yeah. His disciples for continued relationship, but without the body.
Yes.
Like that's really but like I had just read from this book, it literally talked about how detrimental his death was to the disciples, because that they missed it. They thought it was the body. I mean, even in The Chosen, Simon or Peter, whatever, which name did he switch him to? Peter?
Peter's the one he got switched to.
Yes. Okay. I get confused. But so Peter is like, okay, yeah, we know you're always with us, but why is your body leaving? Like, he like gets it, but doesn't get it. Remember? Like, even he's like, and so it's only painful because they thought Jesus was a body instead of like, and he even talks about like, I live on in all of you. And they're like, yeah, like your influence always will, but like, you're going to be like, your body's going to be here, right? Like they're like, yes, but.
Yeah, something you just made me think of, and I don't know why I never really quite had this, I mean, it's those things where it's like just the slight twist of the gem helps you to see a different facet, and like, it's like you already thought you understood this, but then you understand it just a little bit better because of this thing. So like, a lot of his disciples thought that he was coming to bring a new kingdom, which he was, but they thought he was coming to bring a physical new kingdom to overthrow Rome, right? Yeah. But the thing is like what he actually came was to bring a new kingdom that resides in all of us. He came not to reign over the people of the earth in a perceived physical sense, but he came to reign within all of us. You know what I mean? Like you can only have one master, you know what I mean? And they thought that he was going to always be their master physically on this earth, that they were always going to be able to physically follow this physical body and follow that guidance. But what Christ actually came to bring was a master that lives on within us all, that we all can follow, that we all can. And I think that's why, like, I think Christianity got twisted over time, because the empires of the world at the time could not fathom and could not handle a people that were not reigned by them. that they could not control. Like, you can't control what's within. You can't touch that. And like, that's what Christ came to bring. That was the new kingdom he came to bring, was a kingdom that we all are connected to, that we all are a part of, that we all can live from, that we all can be guided from and follow. And I think that's actually like so beautiful and freeing. Freeing is kind of the word that really keeps coming to mind. It's just this freedom of,
because it's true freedom.
yeah.
It's not, because like right now, like again, where the state of the country is, we're back focused that freedom is at the level of the body. Like these people should be free. I get to be free, so I should be grateful. But like Gandhi again showed us that he was more free than people who literally have all the money in the world and like, you know, maybe owns an entire island. I don't know, an entire country, whatever. Like whatever you try to equate to freedom. And so, yeah, and I think it wasn't that Jesus even brought a new kingdom. It was the remembrance of the kingdom that always was.
Ooh.
And
That was even better.
Yeah, because it is. It's what he just brought, like, he had to meet us where we were, and we were stuck in this ego illusion. And so if all of a sudden a pixie fairy flew into your hand and told you all the same stuff Jesus did, that probably never would have made it into what's called the Bible. It would never be like, that person would have had a lobotomy back in the day. They would have cut out a part of its brain or whatever. But so Jesus, like God, who doesn't know of this world, had, like, the Holy Spirit, the branch, had to create at the level of form the vessel that like figured it out. That's all Jesus did. Jesus was the first to remember truth. And then he was, you know, that's why he is the way,
the truth, and the life.
Yeah, the way, the truth, and the life. Not because physically his body is meant to be worshipped. It's because he's literally like, hey guys, the way, the truth, and the life, right? Like, it's like, I just showed you all three of those things in this seemingly body called Jesus. But I was just using Jesus as the puppet, right? Like a puppet show. Like if we're trying to teach kids, it's a lot easier to teach them something via a puppet show or a picture book or something like that. That's what Jesus was. Jesus was like a picture book. He's like, and that's why, like, think of all of his stories are literally they're made into kids books.
They're
because
all
they're
stories.
so stories.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like the fish but they all play on the concepts that we believe keep us alive, like food.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, it's always things that he meets us exactly where we are and inserts a little bit of truth.
Yes, yeah, it reminds me of the quote of man does not live on bread alone. You know, people think that the bread of life, that like bread keeps us alive, but the bread of life, the true bread of life that actually keeps us alive is the word of God. It's the truth of God.
Yeah. Because it's not the body. And Jesus says that like 5 million times. Like, yeah, he uses like elaborate words and statements, because if he just came to you and said, you're not your body, you're not your body, you're not your body, you wouldn't understand. Like, he spent how long with his disciples telling them the same story over and over again, 5 million different ways.
Yes.
Which is essentially, this world isn't real and you're not your body, right? Like Simon, oh my God, I can't fish. And he's like, all right, go out, throw your net in. There's a shit ton of fish. Right? How does that say this is not real? Or, oh, you can't walk on water? Come on. Oh, in the middle of a storm, we can walk on water too. Right? Like, that's not him being like, oh, I'm a magical wizard and you should follow me because I'm all knowing. That's him saying like, look none of this is real. It's just your belief in it. Because the moment like Simon believes that he's on water again, because that's when he stops looking at Jesus, the way, the truth, the life, and he realizes he's on water, and all of his doubts and beliefs of the world about the miscarriage and that being real and that meaning that he's unworthy and all of the body things, he sinks. But Jesus doesn't dive into the water and like swim him out like Baywatch.
Yeah. He just like calmly reaches his hand down and is like, hey dude, like
Yeah, and like I always say, he doesn't even like go all the way in with his
No.
arm. He's just like, here, you can have like just maybe I don't want to get my sleeve wet. Like here, this is it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it's up to Simon to, find his way out.
It reminds me of another example. There's two storm analogies in the Bible, and another one is where Jesus is sleeping on a boat with his disciples as they're traveling somewhere, and a storm starts, and the boat starts sinking a little bit, and they start freaking out, and they start try to wake him up, and he's not really waking up, and then finally they wake him up, and he's like, what? And they're like, do you not care? Do you not care? Like the storm's about to like take us in, type of thing. And he's literally just is like, be calm, and the storm stops. Like he's just like, what are y'all freaking out about? Like this is nothing. What do you mean?
Yeah, and that was a moment where he's like, I don't even want to teach them anything. I just want to keep napping. So like, let's just stop.
Right.
Like that's the vibe I felt from it. It was like, I'm like, you guys, come on. Like, I'm tired. I've told you this story over and over again. So I'm just going to like stop the storm for you since you believe it's true.
Yeah. And you've finished The Chosen, haven't you?
Yeah.
Okay, so me and Mitchell just finished it the other night, and when he's in the garden of just says I can never pronounce these things, Gethsemane or something like that, and he's going off and he's praying and stuff, and then he comes back and 3 of his disciples that were supposed to be watching over him have fallen asleep. And he was like, hey guys, like y'all can't even stay awake for a little bit. And they're like, I'm so sorry, like it won't happen again. So he's like, okay, y'all got me, I'm gonna go pray again. He goes and prays again, he comes back and they're asleep again. And for a split moment, he sees them as children. He doesn't see them as these adult disciples. He sees them as children, and he realizes like how silly it is. And they wake up again, and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I don't know how we fell asleep again. And he goes, the spirit is willing. I know the spirit is willing, but the flesh is not. And it pretty much goes to right. And I thought that was really powerful. I think that's I think there's a bit of truth in all of us in that like a lot of times our spirit is willing, but our flesh is weak, and we fall victim to our flesh a lot. But we have to remind ourselves that like we are not that. We are our spirit, and to continue to have faith and trust in God and Christ and the Holy Spirit and on our spirit, which is one with the Holy Spirit, which is the Spirit of God. And trusting in that and realizing the truth in that and realizing the freedom in that and realizing how we can be awake in that too. I think there's a double meaning message there somewhere. So
yeah. Well, because it talks about like, when you're in spirit, when you're in truth, you don't get burdened or weary or tired, because it's like it's the flesh that becomes tired, it's the flesh that becomes sick. And I love that you said that, and I would even like invite you that like, no, not sometimes is the spirit willing. The spirit's always willing.
Yes.
And the flesh is always not willing.
Yes.
Right? And so that's when we talk about like, who are you watching the movie with? Are you watching it in the body that is Ashley? So you're going to experience all of that. You're going to experience like pain and sadness and elation. It's a duality roller coaster. Or are you going to witness it with spirit? And when you witness it with spirit is when you're in the purpose, and you just see like, oh yeah, this whole movie makes sense now. I mean, totally. Like, even think of the movies, Cassie, like where we've yelled at them. I mean, there's been moments even watching The Chosen where I'm like, yell at it. Not yell at it, but like, articulate to it, like, yeah. But then like maybe the first time they fell asleep, you're like, what the heck? How are they falling asleep? And then, the second time you're like, why are they keep falling asleep? And then the third time you're like, oh yeah, that's why they fell. So then it always makes sense. And, that's of course where the statement hindsight's 2020, but that's because the ego always wants us reflecting on the past. But instead, if we just like live in the present, Spirit uses remembrance for one thing and one thing only, remembrance of the present, which is so funny, right? Like to remind you of the present.
Yes, the true present.
Yeah, so it's not a look back. It's always directly in this moment. So if you're viewing through Spirit, it just is. It's unfolding exactly as it's meant to. And you don't ever want hindsight because you already believe that this moment is 2020, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. It does make
Like you're
sense.
always 20/20 vision in spirit.
Yes.
Or 24/24. Isn't there, like, I think there's like higher. I'm pretty sure mine is
Yeah.
like past 20/20, which I don't
Yeah, I
quite
think
get,
mine is
but
too, but I don't know the numbers though.
yeah, which is so funny. Like, anyway, oh my gosh, my dear
What a
friend.
journey.
I know. I like feel like I have so much more to like ask you and talk to you
I
about,
think
and
we could
like,
talk for literal hours. And it's been
I
beautiful
know.
too because I'm excited to listen to this back because I really feel like I can even see the journey of like spirit clearing up what we were trying to say in words. And like words are
Yes.
second removed symbols, right? And a little bit of the ego. And
Mm,
I feel like there's been this like clearing of the message that we were talking about. I think there's like a whole story, despite all these ups and downs and different things that we talked about the world and the Bible and all this different
yeah.
stuff. I feel like when we listen back, you're gonna look back and you're gonna realize this like message of spirit that's been happening through the whole thing, regardless of the words we were choosing. And I think that's actually really beautiful. And again, that just that like that freeing, that like
Yeah.
that breath of air, that breath of life, the life that lives in us is the life of God. And I feel like you see that when we listen back to this. I think you're gonna be able to see that travel through all of it, and I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah, no, I totally agree because I like even feel it. I feel the the reflection that Cassidy is when I'm really in spirit, and I see that in you. Like you came on feeling like peaceful, but just almost just like not filled with passion, like the
Yes.
cast, like, but I feel like you and I both, like, we feed our mirrors just get stronger and stronger
Yes.
the longer we sit together, when the passion,
I completely
when,
agree.
yeah, like our
We
passion,
polish
like,
each other. We clear each other up, I feel like, in a way.
yeah, where it's like Ram Dass, we're polishing each other's mirror more and more as we
Yes.
go. But the
Yes.
coolest thing is too is like, and that's why I love this like premise, because there is just so many wonderful conversations you and I have, and like some people could watch this over and be like, well, that was totally scripted, like they immediately talk like that, and I'm thinking like, no, like like anytime we hop on a call, it might start out at like, oh, how are you, what's new with Mitchell, oh, what's new with Patrick, and it's like super awkward, almost like we almost don't even know how to talk to each other that way.
Yes.
And then it's like, oh my gosh, blah blah, and then we just like go into these rabbit holes for hours about like our worldly adventures and what we're both doing and how like, oh my gosh, we're seeing spirit and we're, yeah.
Yeah,
So
no, I love
beautiful.
it. I'm so blessed to be able to experience our holy relationship the way that it
Yeah.
is. It truly is a gift. And like you said, it unraveled the way it always unraveled, where yeah, it's a little bit, maybe a little bit rocky and awkward at the beginning, but by the end of it we're both like soaring like eagles on the wing, in the wind. I feel like by the time we're done. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Mitchell and Patrick are like, hey, let's ground you a little bit. Let's bring you
Oh,
back
I
down a
know,
little
right?
bit.
Yeah. Patrick went for a run, so now like I'll have time. I'll record the beginning and then have time to maybe regroup. But yeah,
Yeah. Well, it's been such a gift. I love you so much.
I love you so very much. You get some headphones, lady, and we'll
Yes.
do some more.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
so
apparently I
much
need to.
love.
Yeah,
Thank you
so much
so
love.
much, and we'll chat soon. Much love.
Yes.
Bye bye.
Yeah.